Great morning, world. Very excited about this Rise Up. This one in particular is called our RSP, Regularly Scheduled Program. You're going to love this one.
Great morning, world. Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon.
Great morning, world. This is your boy Dragon coming to you with our Friday edition of Rise Up with Dragon. Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon show, streaming on my Rise Up with Dragon Facebook page, as well as on our Rise Up with Dragon YouTube page, just to make sure that it is a little bit scary and uncomfortable. We run it live. So please feel free to join our Facebook community at Rise Up with Dragon and our YouTube page as a subscriber, because that's where you'll get the live show, the unedited version where I have a potential of fucking things up, and that might be exciting for some of you to watch. So great morning, world. Very excited about this Rise Up. This one in particular is called, and it's hard to say, especially 5 times fast. This one I refer to as our RSP, Regularly Scheduled Program. You're going to love this one. And the purpose of the Rise Up with Dragon show and the podcast is, you know, I get these great ideas, and they've really helped to serve me. And I have this morning routine. As you know, pretty soon we're going to be launching the 15 Days to Discipline, and that's going to be awesome. If you want to get on the free version of that, I'm going to be sending that out to all the people that register for that. And that can be found at riseupwithdragon.com. And this big window will pop up and say, sign up for this, and you'll get the free overview of it. We were in production just the other day with it, and I spent like 4 hours talking about discipline. So we got a couple more sessions to go with that, but that's going to be rock steady. That's going to be 15 days of setting you up and teaching you how to build the foundations for discipline. But today's Rise Up is going to be on our regularly scheduled program. And it's just about that default, like normal program, that safe program that we have. But I want to talk just quickly, because when I was thinking about this, it was triggered by kind of a quote that I wrote about a little bit. So I'm going to read that, but also where this fits in the realm of all of the things that I talk about. I talk about this thing called the interface response system. You know, so everything that I teach, my book and everything like that, it's all about setting people up to have a more efficient response system. Because as we know, we don't control the things that happen in life. We control how we respond to them. So everything that I teach is all about arming people, unlocking them from their mental prison, but arming them, which requires that they be open, arming them with a better response system to life. Because I believe that if you can learn how to better respond to the happenings of life, you're going to have a better life experience. And that's what we're all about. So I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to introduce our special guest today, who is none other than the better half of the dragon situation, and that is the chicken. So I'm actually going to bring the chicken on here right now, and I call her the chicken because
hello,
my sweetie. It's
hello.
nice to have you actually on video. You usually like yelling in the background, and this is how my wife looks like when she just wakes up. She looks that beautiful. She just wakes up beautiful every day.
Well, I was just saying to the dragon that I actually quite miss Zoom, because you can filter your face on Zoom, and I'm like, wow, this is like real video stuff.
You want to know how I like my chicken? Unfiltered.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. That's super cheesy, but it's great. I just wanted to mention something. I had a great little chuckle when I was watching your intro video just now, because I remember you with a mustache.
Yeah, that's so funny that Claire put that in there. I almost look like some sort of a character wearing a fake mustache from like the Beastie Boys or something.
Yeah, you do. But anyway, I loved it. It's great.
So I want to jump into this, and But before we get into the flow of this, and I know you have to go because you have all of your clinical work to do, just let everybody know a little bit, because in my morning routine, my model morning, my Rise Up Great morning, I talk a lot about how we use meditation. And, you have created such an amazing service and product for people with karma minds. So just let everybody know a little bit about your podcast and this amazing meditation work that you're doing.
Yeah. So, Calm a Mind, I like to use the slogan, is a guided meditation podcast rooted in Buddha's beautiful teachings. And I think what makes my podcast, my guided meditations, different from every other meditation out there that you can find on YouTube, for example, is that before the meditation begins, I actually have a little bit of an educational side to the podcast as well. So I usually have about a minute or so of introducing why I think that this guided meditation would be good for you. So, for example, I have one episode on my podcast, which is mindful speech. It's called Mindful Speech. And in the beginning of it, I actually talk about Buddhist principles and why we have to practice mindful speech, and what negative talk does to not only ourselves, but to others around us as well. So there's a little bit of an educational component to the podcast, which people seem to like.
Well, there's only one response to that, and you'll tell me if you can hear this with my new device here. I love it. That's the Rodecaster Pro. Just love it. So, okay, so here's how this got triggered, and you'll understand the relevance of why I brought Chicken in, because Chicken and I, we've had all of these amazing conversations in the morning. And okay, this is part of the live show right now. We're gonna get rid of all of these sounds coming in.
Good. I got those as well. We're on the same message thread.
Yeah, isn't that funny? So in any case, Chicken and I have these in-depth conversations in the morning, and that's part of our morning structure. We're in a relationship, we're in love, but that takes work. And one of the things that we always do is we jam and we talk to each other. So I dropped this quote, this stimulus, and Chicken had a lot of cool things to say about it, and it triggered this whole rise up. So that's why I brought her here. So this is what it was. We were watching actually a documentary last night. We're minimalists, meaning we minimize what we consume, and we don't watch TV, but we do like to watch documentaries, movies, and we Netflix and chill and stuff. So last night, this is what I heard. It went like this. It said, "It is the past that has defined who we are today," right? I mean, without the past, we wouldn't even have our identity, right? Without the past, we would actually lose our identity. However, our future is not defined by our past. And this was what triggered this conversation. It's not defined by our past. We get to decide each day who we will become. So when I said this to Chicken, I handed this to her because what we were talking about, because keep in mind, Chicken is in this clinical world of helping people with all these amazing techniques and these skill sets. So what she was explaining, and I want you to go over that there's two different types of work that you do with clients. One of them, which we learned from Russell Fulmer in that amazing episode. If you didn't hear Russell Fulmer's interview, go back and listen to that in the podcast. Is when we go back and we figure out why we are the way we are. But then she was explaining to me this super cool concept of looking forward in a solution focused way. So just drop a little bit of 5 minutes of Chicken on that, because I thought it was super cool what you had to say.
Yeah, so I love this conversation. I'm extremely passionate about different theories in psychology. And one thing that you learn, well, you learn many things when you go to graduate school for counseling and psychology, but one thing that you do learn a lot about is the different theories used in the mental health field. And we had Russell Fulmer on, Dr. Fulmer, who is one of my professors at Northwestern University. And he is the head faculty for psychodynamic therapy at Northwestern. And so when we think about psychodynamic therapy, we think about bringing, oh, that just threw me off when you put me on the big screen. Wow. We think about a person's past experiences and how those past experiences influence who we end up becoming. And so we have good things that have happened to us in the past, and then we have also some bad things or some traumatic things that have happened to us in the past. And so typically when a client comes in for a session, there's something called a therapeutic alliance. So there needs to be some trust that's being built. Some clients open up a lot easier than others do. But at Northwestern, really the emphasis is on psychodynamic therapy. So, how can we explore past experiences with a client so that it doesn't end up affecting their future? And so, say for example, we have a client who comes in and he really just is unsuccessful in dating. And as a result of, constantly going through the dating scene and having unsuccessful relationships, he's started to dislike women intensely. And so, what psychodynamic therapy does is it goes back into this individual's past and looks at other relationships that he may have had with women. And there might be a connection that as a child growing up, he had a mother who was very controlling, or a grandmother who influenced him in a negative way by constantly putting him down. And so, because he hasn't worked through that past experience, he's now projecting those relationships onto his current relationships and essentially seeing these other women that he's dating as the women from his past. And so, what's wonderful about therapy is that in therapy, this is where these connections are made in talk therapy and in going through our past experiences. And so for an individual to figure that out by themselves is very difficult because we go through life unconscious, and you speak about this all the time. So we just think about our life as this present experience. So we don't always take the time to reflect and say, hey, maybe this has something to do with my past. And so what's great about therapy is that you have that neutral sounding board. So essentially the therapist becomes the individual who objectively looks at your life experiences and makes you aware of those connections. And then once you have those connections, that's when you can start moving forward and the healing process can begin, so that past experience doesn't affect your future any longer. And it doesn't form a part of your identity as much, because our past experiences do stay with us, good and bad. They form schemas, belief systems that we have about ourselves. So this client, for example, might now start believing that he'll never have a successful relationship, that women don't like him. And so in therapy, that's when we start breaking that down and we start exploring that more. And that's really where solutions come in. Now, every therapist has a different way of approaching it. We have many different theoretical, we like to call them lenses. And I always find, and this could be anything from acceptance and commitment therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodynamic therapy, solution-focused therapy. There's so many different theoretical lenses out there. The dialectic behavioral therapy, which is what Calmer Mind is rooted in, Eastern meditative practices, and emotional regulation, for example. But what I always find, in my personal opinion, a good therapist is somebody who has more of an eclectic, person-centered approach. So we look at somebody and we say, in this moment, we need to explore your past and make those connections. But how about from there on, we come up with some solutions, or we bring in some cognitive behavioral therapy, some of those techniques. And it really is about changing. Therapy is very fluid. So you might have somebody come in 1 week and they just want to talk. And then the following week, they might come in and go, you know what, I think I'm ready to face this head on and to come up with some more solution-focused approaches. So I think that sort of covers it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much a question. I just, I love when I come up with these ideas and I see it from my perspective, and that's what I share on this show. But whenever I bring people in that have a little bit or a lot of bit more expertise than me, and I hear the way they, like when I was talking to you this morning and I shared kind of where I was going with my rise up this morning, and you put it into terms with some of the work that you've been doing. It just helped me further, as you know, make sense of it. And it just kind of, I think what's cool about just making breakthroughs and making sense of stuff is it's cool. You just go,
Mhm.
oh wow, like when I hear people like you talk, you're just re-explaining what I was thinking in your terms, and it just further solidifies things. So I'm psyched that you came and shared that idea. I mean, what it says to me, let me read the quote one more time before Chicken goes, and then I'll just give you an idea of what it meant to me and what triggered this whole rise up that we're about to get into. So as it was read again, it is the past that has defined who we are today, right? So she was just
Mhm.
talking about the idea of going back and saying, well, yeah, it makes sense that you are feeling this way right now, right? Because right now you're living in the past. So without it, you would have no identity. You wouldn't know who you were today had you not ever been somewhere.
Mhm.
Then when we talk about solution focused, is it gives rise to this potential that you don't have to be your past in the future, right? So it says, however, future is not defined by our past. We actually get
Mhm.
to decide who we will become. Now what she just unveiled to us is you can say, hey, that's cool, but it's easier said than done. That's the value of therapy, is working with somebody and getting into that mode of having somebody guide you. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that quote, and I think that it really just exemplifies what therapy can do for people. And I'm always, I used to be one of those people who thought that therapy was a bunch of crazy woo woo. And the same thing with meditation. But meditation, much like therapy, is about self reflection. And when you can sit in that moment and really be with yourself and be present with yourself, you open yourself up to being able to make those connections that you otherwise wouldn't have if you just went through life unconsciously.
So here's a deep thought. And first of all, I just want everyone to know that this woman that you've just been hearing speak is my lovely Chicken and my wife, and just the apple of my eye. She's wearing the dress that she was wearing when I proposed to her. Actually, no, when I met her on our first date.
Yes, this
And
is my
she looks a
birthday
little bit
dress.
Downtown Abbey-ish, but anyway, sweetie, I just love you so much, and thanks so much for contributing. So here's a deep thought as we move in, because I know that Chicken has to go to
Well,
her.
I just wanted to say before I go that I love you very much. And when you introduced me, you said my better half. I don't think that that's true. I think we're equal halves and we complement one another. So,
Here's an interesting thing on that. And anybody that is in any way, shape, or form in the throes of a relationship or wanting to be in one. I read something the other day because I was practicing stoicism. So Chicken and I made this funny discovery. We claim to be Buddhists, but we don't practice Buddhism because it's way too hard.
yeah.
But what I practice is what I do on a regular basis, and I work at it, and that's stoicism. But
Mhm.
the Stoics had an interesting view on relationships, and what they said, they were big advocates of marriage. They weren't big advocates of falling prey to temptations and things like that. Like they looked at things like intimacy and having sex as just a procreation thing. But
Mhm.
it was interesting when they have very, very high values about monogamy, though, and what it means to have a good marriage. And I just want to share this with you because it's pretty cool. The Stoics, and I think it was Seneca, the Stoics said that a good marriage is one where both sides, keyword both
Mhm.
sides every day attempt to outdo one another with the love and affection they have for each other. Isn't that cool?
I love
So
that.
it's not like one's trying to be better than the other, but just imagine a relationship where you're actually both equally trying to outdo. I love you more. No, I love you more. I love you more.
I love it.
What's
I
interesting
love
is
it.
when I part of our morning routine, and this is for anybody that's in a relationship, this is something we practice, but now it's who we are. Um, I always roll over and I give her a kiss, and I make sure that she knows before I get out of the bed at 4:30 in the morning that I love her. So I always say I love you, and what do you typically say in response?
I love you more.
Exactly. So we're always trying to outdo each other. So my sweetie, I love you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for being with us on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great day, my love.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, so let's jump into this. And here's the first deep thought that I'm going to share with you on this idea of the regularly scheduled program, the RSP. So we just talked about this idea of how we're identified today by our past, but our past does not depict our future. And the reason why this is relevant in this Rise Up is who we are today can actually all of a sudden become our default mode, our regularly scheduled program, which doesn't really have a lot of room for growth, right? So we're going to get into that. But I came up with this idea and it just made me realize that right now we are actually in the past of our future identity. So think about that. So what we're saying is that our past is actually what creates our current identity. But our current identity is actually resting in the past of our future. So if we can learn how to work with our current identity, our future identity will be different. So what I thought is cool about that, and I've never heard anybody put it that way. So it must be all the drugs and partying I did when I was younger. But what that says is that kind of validates the fact that we actually can put our hands on the control and change the future. So let's get into this Rise Up. So the programming and experiences in life, that's, you hear me talk a lot about that, give rise to our current reality. And then we form our version of what society calls normal. And then we'll call that our regularly scheduled program. So let's just get on the same page that when I say normal, right, what it is that we consider normal, which is affected by our mother, father, teacher, preacher, right, and society, let's just assimilate that that's what I mean by our regularly scheduled program. And, you know, that's an analogy to watching TV and just watching the same damn show every day. Like you keeping it safe, you never explore outside of that. So this daily action plan, our regularly scheduled program, our RSP, this daily action plan that's formulated to accomplish what we think we should be doing to get what we think we should be getting accomplished. So that's because it's programmed, right? Now, whenever you put the word should into things, that word should is connected to something somebody else taught you, right? So if I ever say, this is what I should be doing, that's come from some sort of a lesson from outside in. I've consumed something that's told me what I should do, right? As soon as you remove the word should, you might replace it with could or would or something like that. That's more of an exploratory word. So it makes sense mostly because we've been led to believe that it makes sense what we should and shouldn't do. So let's listen to that again. That makes sense. Your regularly scheduled program, your normal, right? Your default mode, it makes sense mostly because it's what you've been led to believe makes sense. So we go to sleep, we wake up, we get ready and go through our day partaking in activities and a flow that hypothetically, right? That's a challenging word, that hypothetically moves us forward to said goals and destinations that once again, we've been taught to go after. This is what TV does and movies and God forbid the news. You know, the news right now is teaching you that your goal is to get freaked out. Your goal is to fight and be angry. The news is teaching you to stand up for things that have nothing to do with what you've set out to do this day. So we live in a sea full of distractions right now. So we set goals and dreams based on the same structure as well, right? What we think we're supposed to set goals and dreams, meaning we set goals and dreams based on what we feel we can or are supposed to do. So this is the belief system that has created what I'm referring to as normal or regularly scheduled program. So boring, but known and safe. That's why we stay in it. Everybody kind of knows that it's kind of dull and mediocre and boring. However, it's safe because it's what we know. What is unknown is unsafe, scary, and carries risk. And we talk a lot about that on the show. So it's funny to think about how big of a breakthrough it is. Think about this. Like, I'm just picturing some guy in the audience at like a Tony Robbins event, or even one of you that have read something or listened to one of my podcasts or somebody that's had like some sort of a big breakthrough, right? And so it's funny to think about how big of a breakthrough it is, or it's perceived to be, when we wake up and simply decide to change the freaking channel of our regularly scheduled program and watch a new channel. And let's call that new channel Dreaming Bigger. Just think about it. Like, there's books written on this. We spend millions of dollars a year to learn how to simply change the channel. And the reason why it's perceived to be such a breakthrough is because it's so abnormal to step out of the norm, to change the channel, right? So when we go against the grain and live what I consider an uncommon or abnormal life, and the reason why I call it uncommon and abnormal is because when I look at the amount of people at the top of the mountain, which there's an endless amount of space for, there is a chair for you at the table of success. When I look at how many people are there, it's uncommon. There's just a teeny little bit of people, right? And what did they do? They just realized one day that they could change the channel. I remember I heard Steve Jobs talk about the one of the biggest breakthroughs he had is he realized that he came to the edge of life, like his parameters, his comfort zone, and he called it like a bubble. Like, he realized he was living in a bubble, and he was trained to think, just like Truman, right? Jim Carrey in that movie, he was trained to think he was in a bubble. So what he learned is that he could take his hand and he could poke at the bubble, right? He could actually pop the bubble and he can move beyond the bubble. So that's what we're talking about when we say change the channel, right? So we make millions of YouTube videos and label them as motivational talks, all focused on teaching you how to change the frickin' channel. Think about that. Change the damn channel. So that's how we're ingrained to think. And it's a powerful concept, right? It's a powerful concept to look at the simplicity, but the profoundness of just changing the channel and stepping into a new program, which you get to write, Remember, the program you're living right now, if it is from the past, somebody else created it. Somebody else produced it and directed it. You're just living in it right now. And that's because you think that that's a good idea. And listen, have I ever lived in my normal and safe place? Yeah, most of my life. That's why I'm not projecting this podcast from a G6 right now. That's why if I text you today, I'm not texting you from Mars saying Elon Musk works for me. It's because I've lived safe most of my life, but no more. So we must make a breakthrough and break out of our regularly scheduled program rather than just change our minds and decide to live bigger, right? So we have to actually, rather than just deciding to live bigger, we actually have to break out of this Truman Show, right? So we must read books, go to seminars, get motivated to just change the channel. So we work so hard to just change the channel. I'm hoping to pass on to you today that it is as easy as pushing a button. It could be as easy as responding differently. It could be as easy as when adversity strikes today that you just take a pause and just chill for a second. It could be taking a left instead of a right. It could be just shaking your head right now as you normally wouldn't do. So my first observation is that the regularly scheduled program, the RSP, is for the most part a survival strategy, right? We always look at natural selection, only the strong survive. We're all looking to survive long enough to go with the flow so we can be part of this thing called evolution, right? So the RSP is really a survival strategy versus what I call thrivival strategy. It's not growth oriented, it's safe, and it's just about getting by, meaning it's based on doing the best that we can with what we got before we die. So it has parameters though and limitations, and it also carries rules with it. If you want to stay safe, there's parameters, limitations, and rules. Wait, who set those rules? Did you set those rules? I'll tell you who set those rules. Our programmers set those rules. Think about that. The programmers did, and this program becomes what we also refer to as our default mode. Are you living in default mode today? Why would we go back to default? Remember what default means by nature is if you set default mode, in computers and programs and software always says, do you want to use like this internet browser as your default mode? And what that means is when you boot up your computer, it automatically goes to the safe version of your browser, right? So our regularly scheduled program is structured to default back. When we change the channel, right? When we change the channel and we go from the known to the unknown, when we change the channel and or either get scared or fear failure or risk or overwhelm, we're automatically programmed also by somebody else, something else, to go back to default mode. So if you're in default mode right now, I promise you didn't decide to do that. You were coaxed into it. You were trained to do it. That's why it's called default mode. You just automatically revert. Now, for some of you, default mode is bad. It's depression. It's anger. It's frustration. It's obesity. It's alcoholism, right? Sometimes, because if you spend, we know that the formation of habits is dictated by, if we do something with consistency over time, it becomes habitual. It becomes our new normal. So we actually have the ability to create a new regularly scheduled program, a new normal, a new default mode that sucks. But in that lesson right there, that means that you can also create, Chicken and I own an international coaching company, and we help people get physically, mentally, and financially well. So people naturally say, oh, great, I want to get physically, mentally, and financially secure in life. So I'm going to hire you guys as our coaches, and we're going to work forward. But what they don't understand, what we're really doing is helping people over time create a new default mode. Like, imagine if your default mode was upgraded 10 times. It would still not be good enough, because we always want to move forward into the unknown, but be a hell of a lot better than what you got going on right now. And that's when you form a habit, your goal is to become unconsciously competent at it, meaning it's default mode. It's your regularly scheduled program. You don't even know it's happening. But now, as an upgraded version of yourself, it's pretty cool. If you see somebody in flow and kicking ass in life and making tons of money and having everything, this whole concept of the flow state, people go, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like runner's high. I'm just like kicking ass and everything's going well. Well, you're stepping in the realm of creating a new default mode. If you stay there and you learn how to hack flow and you start to move, this is what I do in my book. And you work on your interface response system, and you can stay there long enough, it'll become your new default mode. So then you'll expand and go to a new level, change the channel again, because you're always seeking growth. Why do we seek growth? Because this is an impermanent thing, life, and I'll get into that in a second. But then you'll default back to this new upgraded version. So I could go on forever. So we speak here a lot about going to an unknown, unfamiliar place where this is the new place. We call it the unknown, but where we're neither here nor there. That's a Buddhist concept. Like, you're okay with the upside and the downside. So we're neither here nor there, and we no longer settle for good enough. We don't separate good and evil. We're okay with everything. Hey, Dragon, how are you doing? It's all good. It's all good, right? You're always able. Doesn't matter about timing. Doesn't matter about belief. Doesn't matter about motivation. You always can upgrade and level up. Okay. And what's the value? Once again, if you level up and you stay in the level up form for a long time, you're going to upgrade your channel. So these are uncommon and unpredictable things. This idea of living here, neither here nor there, and leveling up. They're uncommon and unpredictable. So we love retreating to our default mode and our good old RSP. So you see what the goal is today, is to just expand your mind and just consider the idea of creating a new RSP, of creating a new default mode, right? That's less sucky. Okay, so we do this to keep safe. So here's my question. Where does safe get us in life besides away from risk and failure? And risk and failure is exactly what we know from all the books that we're reading to try to learn how to change the channel. Those are the ingredients for success. So why would we want to stay safe when we know that staying safe keeps us away from the actual ingredients of this pie you're trying to bake called success? So does safe move us forward or help us get by natural selection, survival, rather than thrival? Does safe help us move forward, or does it help us get through life on our way to our undetected, unexpected, unpredictable expiration date? Remember, if you continue to lick the lollipop of mediocrity, you will suck forever. That's a guarantee. That's what happens in the absence of taking risks and going after things and stepping into the unknown, creating a new regular scheduled program. If if you continue to lick the lollipop of mediocrity, you will suck forever. Okay. So do you want to suck forever? Then keep watching the same channel. If your goal is to suck forever and be mediocre, that's an easy one. Stay on your regularly scheduled program, stay in default mode, play around with personal growth so you feel better about yourself every now and then, and you get the value of your $3,000 seminar, but always revert back to the same default mode and you will suck forever and you will win if that's your goal. So I encourage you to become conscious of the unpredictable impermanence of life today. And here's the visual. I'm going to put up a post on my Instagram that shows this visual. I found a cool picture of it. So here's the visual. We are all, you and I, we are all in one big line. And we're in this line. Just imagine you're out in a field and you're in this line full of human beings and you're watching and you notice that way up in the front of the line, you notice that the person in the very front of the line gets rocketed up, just rocket up to the heavens. Because why? Because their time has come to an end. Their time has come to an end. This is what I mean by impermanence. So Stoics practice the idea of a mortality mentality. Why? Because it creates urgency to live today. So if you're on that line and you look and you know that what the line's all about, here's the thing. We don't know where we are on that line. That's the unpredictable nature. You could be in the front. You could be number 2 in that line. You could be 1 million in that line. You could be 2 million. You could be 5 or 6. Nobody's telling you. Call God today, call the universe and ask them where in the line you are. And they're going to say, I'm not telling. So change the freaking channel today. Change the channel today so that you could maybe buy yourself a little bit more time on the line. Who knows? Maybe by changing the channel and stepping into this new realm, you'll put yourself in a reality where you'll buy yourself some more time. I know that when people lose weight and get healthy on our program, I know that when people learn how to respond to adversity and decrease stress and rid themselves of all these uncontrollable attached feelings, they live longer, right? So be unpredictable today and grab the universe's attention. That's as simple as I can tell you. Set a goal today to grab and attract the universe's attention. Remember, the universe is providing us with everything that we need to succeed. Just like Katniss Everdeen in that famous movie, the Mockingbird. What the hell is it called? The Hunger Games. So Katniss Everdeen, to survive, people would drop little parachute elixirs and weapons to help her survive. The universe works the same way. The universe provides you with everything you need to move forward. It's in favor of you. But you know what? Most of you don't have the attention of the universe because you're just licking that lollipop of mediocrity, right? So grab the universe's attention today by displaying your desire and willingness to explore a completely new world and a new channel, one where we take risks, respond differently to things, get rid of dead weight, follow through. This is the new world that you're going to explore, where you follow through, where you say you're going to do something and you do it no matter what. That's the abnormal, uncommon world that grabs the attention of the universe, and the universe therefore sends you a little parachute and you call it a good day and you say, I got lucky today. So refrain today, as you add in, take out, refrain today from non-supportive activities that simply distract you and waste time. A new place of unpredictable and immeasurable growth, driven by a desire to make your time count today. So that is my Rise Up today. I loved this one. I'm going to be publishing a pre-book really soon called Daily Rise Ups, where I'm going to pick probably about 30 of my favorite out of like 3,000. 30 of my favorite rise ups, and we're just going to put it in as a little 10-minute, 15-minute daily read. What an honor and a privilege it is to be with you today. Whether you're watching this as a recording, listening to it as the edited version podcast with no mistakes or anything like that. Love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. And our Clubhouse's room is open, and I see a couple people in there. If anybody wants to join me in chat, we will do so. Have a wonderful day. Great morning. Remember, if you learned something today, give it away. That's how it's going to stay. Join the 15 days of discipline. It's going to kill you. You're going to love it. Have a wonderful day.